Hey everyone, Genome here with the next episode of Was It Good? Today, we're going to go back to the mid-80s and look at a movie that I really wanted to do almost from the outset of getting my channel started. And I don't know why I really wanted to do it so bad, other than just a healthy heaping of nostalgia. Before I get into what movie I'm going to do, a quick little bit of backstory. I'll keep it short this time. So I used to go to a friend of mine's parents' house, and they had a thing for just effects movies. They loved to see movies with lots of just interesting special effects. You know, of course, back then it was all practical effects. I remember one of their favorites was called, I believe it was called The Wraith, and I think it had Alice Cooper in it, if memory serves. And they would always comment, you know, well, I bet the effects guys had a great time on this. And they like movies, you know, that Tom Savini did and that sort of thing. Just movies that captured low-budget effects to great effect, you know. So, getting to that, one of the movies that I watched while I went over there was 1986's TerrorVision. This movie was directed by Ted Niccolo, and it had a cast of basically unknowns in it, which is probably appropriate for the genre of movie this is. And what genre movie is this, you might ask? Well, I guess you would just have to call it comedy horror. There's not really much other way to describe this movie. So let's get down to the basic premise. The basic premise of the movie is, it's pretty funny in its stupidity, but it's basically an alien monster gets transmitted to Earth through the newly installed satellite dish system of the protagonist's family, the Puttermans. Mr. Putterman tries to put the dish in itself and somehow or another attracts this bit of electromagnetic energy, which is the monster. The monster was on another planet, but it was beamed off into outer space as a form of disposal. Now, whether this is a hidden barb or jab at recycling, who knows? Or maybe the dangers of recycling in the writer's mind, who knows? And that's the premise of the movie. The monster comes through the television set into the household at random, and he can move between TVs, you know. And that's basically the whole gist. The whole gist of the movie is in the Putterman home. The house is basically the only set. There's one other small piece about a character we'll talk about later, but the vast majority of this movie is just set in one spot in a few rooms in this household. And, you know, it doesn't need a big set. It doesn't need a lot of other locales. I like the fact that they kept it all in one spot. So let's talk a little bit about the cast of characters and who played them. First we have Garrett Graham, who played Stan Putterman, the dad. Mary Woronov as Raquel, the wife. Diane Franklin as Susie, the daughter. Burt Remsen as Grandpa. Chad Allen as Sherman. Jonathan Gries as OD, as in OD, Oscar Delta, the boyfriend of Susie. And we'll round it off with Jennifer Richards as Medusa, a character we'll talk about a little more in depth later. But those are really the main characters in this movie. There's not too many others. There's a few other bit characters, but we don't really need to go into them. They have almost no screen time. So, other than Garrett Graham, I don't know that I've ever seen any other actors in anything else. Maybe I've seen them in smaller parts that I just didn't recognize, who knows, and really I only remember Garrett from actually one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek Voyager, Death Wish. He plays Quinn, the Q, who wants to kill himself. And a very interesting episode, which is also definitely worth a watch if you're so inclined to that show. The characters in this movie are fairly funny and well fleshed out. The boy Sherman, the boyfriend OD, and Grandpa, they can kind of grate on the nerves after a while. They're really kind of annoying. Burt Remsen as Grandpa really tries to do a good job as a sort of cooped out, you know, crazy survivalist old man. It's funny because he's, I don't know if it's a conscious decision on the director's part or if it's just a happenstance of what they had laying around in the prop room, but his outfit is comprised of just myriad different bits of rank and uniform. So he has like general stars on his collar, and he's got airman rank on his sleeves, and he's just all over the place. But he's a survivalist, and he has a little bunker inside the house. And one of the actually kind of funny segments is he is a proponent of, I kid you not, lizard tail jerky. The whole premise being it's a sustainable food. You know, you break the lizard's tail off, you eat it, or you make jerky out of it, then eat it, and it grows back, and the lizard's none the worse for wear, you know. So that has kind of the comical aspect of it. And the boy, Sherman, he tends to follow Grandpa around and likes to listen to his stories and basically just hangs out with him. OD is the boyfriend of Susie, and he is the, I guess, prototypical, you know, hair metal guy from the 80s. Like I said, he comes off as kind of annoying, honestly. They could have done better with him. But I mean, he does all right with his part. It's just, I didn't care for those three characters too much. Now, some standout characters in the movie are the parents, Stan and Raquel. Basically what they are two blossoming swingers who are just getting into the scene, and they are really trying a little too hard to seal the deal. They turn most of their house into a swing pad, even though they have their teenage daughter and young son there and Grandpa living with them, you know, roaming the halls at awkward moments. So, but they even have, I believe they call it the Swingers Den or the Swingers Cove or something like that. It's basically an indoor swimming pool / spa. That just, and there's pictures of like of Congress going on all over their house, you know, despite their family living there with them. So, but you know, they're obviously the middle-aged, you know, bored couple who are getting into the scene to add a little spice to their life, and that part of the movie comes off really funny, I think. It's wonderful to see how oblivious they are to, you know, how ridiculous they look to those around them. And they wind up bringing a couple by later to join them in a swing party that never actually materializes because of the monster's, how shall we say, inopportune timing. So, also of note is Susie the daughter. She is doing her damnedest to channel her inner Cyndi Lauper, and she does so to great effect in this movie. She has about 90 shades of color in her face and hair, and her mannerisms are just right. She's wearing a single lace glove, you know, jewelry everywhere, and she comes across as fairly genuine in the part. And so she's a pretty good character. And rounding out the list of characters here that I find pretty entertaining is Medusa, played by Jennifer Richards. Medusa is a late-night horror TV show hostess who uses her, shall we say, prodigious assets to maintain her scattered little TV audience. She even has phone in, you know, for these lonely losers watching at, you know, 12 midnight or 1 p.m. in the morning, whatever time her show comes on. It's a real low-budget set, and you can tell that it just might be modeled after a certain somebody who was quite popular around that time. Need I say more? But she plays a pretty good part in this movie, and she winds up actually having the closing scene, which is a nice touch. So let's get into some highlights of this movie. The effects in this movie are generally pretty good, actually, considering that budget was probably pretty minimal. They really do their best, and you can tell they tried real hard. It's hard to tell how big the actual creature was. A lot of the shots are distant, so some of it may be hand puppetry, but I think some of it actually might be a fairly scale model of this beast. I'll have to look into it more after this. But he comes across pretty well, and as a side note, he is possibly the slimiest creature ever seen in film. There's just buckets of ooze flowing off of this guy. And he leaves trails everywhere of the same slime. Whoever was producing slime in this movie, if they're charging by the gallon, they made a hell of a lot of money. So the creature is interesting to look at. He's not really scary per se. He's actually kind of comical looking, even though his face is a little disquieting because his mouth is just cavernous, and his eyes are very asymmetrical. One of them is kind of recessed, and he's just got these long tongue-like appendages that come out of him, and he's got a claw hand. He's just got tentacles. He's got everything. He runs the gamut of monster appendages here. The movie itself isn't too gory, and I would definitely say it's far more comedy than horror. There's a few scenes that might go on the edge of being a little bit gory, but there's not really buckets of blood. You see buckets of goo, but not buckets of blood in this movie, so yeah, it's not scary in the slightest, really, so don't worry about that. Really, in the end, this movie is an 80s effects movie, and is really kind of a perfect example of that sort of movie. And there's really little to recommend it outside of the effects, okay? Speaking of what this movie is a prototype for the so bad it's good kind of movie, you know, and I'll be doing quite a few of these because I used to run something called Bad Movie Night when I was deployed that focused on really bad films. This film is a lot more tongue-in-cheek and it doesn't take itself seriously, obviously, given the content, but this movie's pretty bad as far as not as far as quality, because the movie's actually fairly well done and written. It's just that the subject matter is so bad and it comes off as so campy that it's something that could easily be made in a TV studio somewhere, or hell, it could have been made in a college dorm somewhere with a decent special effects friend down the hall, you know, and a little bit of camera work. So getting down to it, was TerrorVision good? Well, in this instance, beauty is definitely in the eye of the beholder. This movie is not good, and it's borderline bad. Its somewhat saving grace is the fact that it's one of those it's so bad it's good movies, you know. The movie is cornball, it's ridiculous, but you know, I mean, there's worse ways to spend 86 minutes of your life, but it's not a movie I think you'll watch repeated times. I don't think this is a movie you'll religiously watch once a year, you know, like some other gems out there. This movie is more of a one and done kind of movie. And I actually hadn't seen this movie since the 80s, when it was like on VHS, probably 87, maybe even 86, I don't know. I think it came out on VHS that year in 86. And I remember it being pretty cool, but funnily enough, I never watched it again since then, so maybe I should have listened to my younger self, you know. But honestly, it really was worth a watch again on a lazy Saturday. If it's raining outside, what the hell, just go watch it. You know, but yeah, it won't be winning any Academy Awards, and most of these characters you never really see again, other than maybe some smaller parts in, say, TV and other smaller genres like that. But yeah, I mean, it's worth a check out. I mean, don't buy it, for goodness sake, don't buy this movie. In fact, getting to that, if you have Amazon Prime, it is on Amazon Prime right now, so you can watch it for nothing. So that's how I would suggest you watch this movie, for nothing. I don't know if it's even on TV, because you think after all these years of having cable or whatever, when I used to watch TV, I would have seen it sometime between 86 and when I did this video, but I really hadn't. So yeah, if you can get it for free, look at it for free, and just shut your brain off and get ready for a few little laughs as far as that goes. And once again, really, it isn't that bad. I mean, I do like the Putterin parents. I think they play a great role and really kind of carry this movie, if you ask me, with special emphasis on Garrett Graham. He does a pretty good job in this. Even though some of his mannerisms are a bit exaggerated, it might seem. But once again, maybe that's how he was directed, to, like, you know, let the audience know that this is nothing but tripe. And don't take yourself seriously at all. Have fun with it. I'm sure he made a whopping 50 grand on this movie or something. Well, who knows what they got paid. Yeah, so like I said, if you're a fan of effects movies that are simply that, effects movies that don't take themselves seriously, and the 80s was the best time for this, yeah, go ahead and give it a shot. It's, if nothing else, it'll give you a taste of what movie makers can do when they have no expectations made of them. You know, here's a little money, go make an effects movie. So with all that being said, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like what you saw here, or if you wanted to make some comments, if you've seen this movie especially, I want to hear what you thought about it. Put something down there in the comments below. If you have Amazon Prime, like I said, go give it a watch and let me know what you think. And I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a fair rating. It's bad, it really is bad, but its saving grace by not being in the bad category to being fair is the fact that it does not take itself seriously at all. It knows exactly what it is. So yeah, it's a fair movie. Enjoy that one-time watch that you have of it. In any case, thanks again for watching. I'll have my next episode of Was It Good out shortly, and I'm also going to have a review of a little bit of nostalgia from the late 80s that some of you may remember. It was a very short-lived piece of nostalgia too. Only a couple of months was it in, but think fidget spinners, but even shorter. So in any case, thanks for watching, and tune in again for the next episode of Was It Good. Until then, Genome out.